Hello everyone and welcome back to our stat tracking tutorials. In the last part we worked on the code side of our stat tracking, so we made it so we can add stats to the game and be able to read those stats from the game as well. Now we're going to work on the user interface element of this. So how do we get to actually show this information to the player during the game? So to get started off with, we need to create all the widgets required for this. So I'm going to right click on here, my content browser, and make a new widget blueprint. Now I'm going to do a Headup Display widget, and if you've seen my other tutorials where I've made other widgets and UIs, you can see that I do this quite a lot. It's just a way to contain all the elements of your Heads-Up display, so all the windows, menus, bars, ammo counters, whatever it may be, get stored in here. Next we're going to do the actual menu for our stat tracking. So we're going to go menu underscore stats UI, and then we're going to have the individual widgets for the individual stats. So right click, make a new widget blueprint, and go stat tracker underscore UI. So let's first of all work on our stat tracker. So the stat tracker, we're going to get rid of the canvas panel, and we can use a size box to give it a minimum height and width. So with it selected, go to the right hand side, go minimum width and minimum height. And the minimum width we're going to do is 500, and the minimum height we're going to do is going to be 100. Now to see this actually in the window, you can change it from fill screen to desired. Next we're going to do is fill this size box with some content. So let's do a vertical box. And the vertical box is going to stack all its contents vertically. So I'm going to have two rows here. I'm going to have, first row is going to have the text part, and then the bottom half is going to have a progress bar, which I'll explain in a moment. First of all, let's do the text. So the text, I'm actually going to use a horizontal box in, first of all. So drag your horizontal box inside of your vertical box, and inside that horizontal box we're going to use two texts. So text 1 goes into horizontal box and text 2 goes into horizontal box. So you see them next to each other like so. Now with the horizontal box, I want this to be split evenly between these two texts here. So the way you do that is you select each item, go to the right hand side and change it from auto to fill, and it'll fill all the whole entire space up with itself. But if you go choose the other one and choose fill as well, it's going to evenly split it between the two. And that will work the same as however many you have in your horizontal box. With this second one selected here, I'm going to align that to the right hand side of the screen so I can have the text on the right hand side. Okay, so the one on the left is going to have the name of the stat, and this one here is going to have the actual stat value itself. Now as I said, we're going to have a progress bar below this as well. And the reason why we want a progress bar is that you may want your stat to be tracked in a way where when it reaches a certain threshold, it unlocks something for the player, be it an achievement, a skill, level up, whatever it may be. So I'm just going to show you how you actually do this. So I'm going to drag a progress bar in to our vertical box, and you'll see it appear here. With it selected on the right hand side, I'm going to change its size to fill, and it'll fill all the remaining space below the text here. Now I'm not going to do anything fancy with this style or anything like that. Just leave it as is for now. So the things that are going to change in this are the two texts, and obviously the progress bar is going to change as well. But the progress bar is already a variable. As you can see here, it's already ticked. So we're just going to change the name of the progress bar here to stat progress. And then we're going to go to our text field. So the first text field, one on the left, we're going to name it the stat name and underscore text, and tick is variable. And then the second one is going to be stat value underscore text and is variable. With that done, compile that and then go over to your graph in the top right hand corner. Now here we're going to set up some variables which we're going to tie into those various widgets. So the first variable we're going to add is the stat name. And this is the name that's referred to inside of our stat tracker in the game instance. So that variable we've set up in the first episode. So this needs to be a string. And it has to be editable. So tick the eyeball to make it editable. Then we add another variable. And this is going to be the stat display name. So this is going to be the name that is displayed on the screen, which may be different from the name in the actual variable. And this is going to be a text. Again, tick the eyeball to make it editable. And finally, we're going to add another variable here. Actually, not finally, there can be one more after this. Next one is going to be stat value. And that's going to be a float. Again, tick the box. Actually, no, we don't need to tick the box. We can turn that eyeball off. The last one we want to do, though, that we do want to show the eyeball for, and that is the progress maximum. So what does this value have to be for that progress bar to be filled up? So to completion value, and we want to tick that as on as well. So we're going to use the stat value and the completion value to work out the progress bar's percentage. So with these actually ticked on like so, we want to then tie these onto our widget using the Preconstruct event. So I'm just going to delete the other two. We don't need them. And in the Preconstruct event, we can start tying these variables up to our stat value name and text. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to drag our stat name out, and we're going to do set text. And the name of this is going to come from the stat display name. So drag that over like so. And that's simply going to just show whatever the designers typed in. Next one is a little bit different because we have to actually get the value from our save file inside the instance. So what we need to do is drag our stat value text out, choose get, and then similarly just do set text. Okay, and it's going to ask for in text. Now, as I said, we need to get it from our variables that we set up in the first episode. But what we also set up in the first episode was that read stat function. So I can just call that read stat function up here, and there you go. And you can see it's asking for a stat name here. So the stat name is going to be this string that we set up here, and that has to be the same as what you have in your variable. This is a value coming out of here, and that's going to be plugged into our stat value variable over here. So set that to that. And finally, we're going to drag that float over to text, and it will convert it to a text form. If you want it to hide decimal places or have a certain amount of decimal places, you can expand open this toText node, and you can see here how many fractional digits it should have. Okay, so minimum, maximum. So if I wanted to show 1, it will only show like 1.1, for example, not 1.155. Okay, so that's that, and that's that. Okay, so we've got this set up. The next thing we want to do is we want to set the bar on the progress here. So the bar progress we're actually going to do in the function because we want to call this up again later on. So I'm going to go new function, and we're going to do set progress bar. And the progress bar function is quite simple. All it's going to do is drag our stat progress bar variable out, choose get, and in there we're looking for set percent. And the percentage is going to be the completion value sorry, not the completion value, the stat value divided by the completion value, and we're going to clamp that to a maximum of 1. So if your stat value is say 5 and the completion value is 10, this can output 0.5. Okay. If it is 5 and the completion value is 2, it's going to output 1 because it's clamped it. So I'm going to drag that out here. And there you go. Back on our event graph, just double check things over. I think we're all good here. Okay, I think we're all good there. So we can close this and now go onto our menu stats UI widget. And this is the menu that's going to show up inside the game with our stats in it. So for this, I'm going to leave the, actually I'm going to get rid of the canvas panel. And we're going to put in a border. And the border here is going to have a background that's different from that. So let's change that from brush color here. I'm going to change that to a faded grey. So 0.8 dark grey. And with that done, I can then change this fill screen here to desired. You'll notice it goes right down to nothing. That's because it's empty. So what I'm going to do is now fill in with all our stats. So go to user created section in your palette and you'll see stat tracker, which is the one we just made. Drag this down into your border. And there you go. Now I can click on this stat here and I can go and to the right hand side and type in the variables that I need here. So the stat name refers to the variable name. So here I have jumped and the stat display name is times jumped. Okay. And the completion value is, I'm going to say, I want to jump 10 times to unlock the achievement. Okay. Hit compile, and we're done there. Now I'm going to add another stat tracker. I'm going to add to, oh no, so realize you have to add multiple. You have to right click on this, wrap with a, where is it? Scroll box. Now you can add multiple to the scroll box. And this one here, stat name, we can have, shots fired, and display name is going to be shots space fired, and the completion value is going to be 100. So I have to shoot 100 bullets or 100 times to get whatever I want to get out of this. Hit compile, and you get the gist. You just keep adding all the stats you want into this. Okay, so hit save, and we'll close that. The next thing we're going to do is go into a heads-up display, and we're going to add our menu to our heads-up display. So leave the canvas panel on, go down to your user created, find menu stats UI, and drag that into canvas panel. You'll see it's bunched up all in the corner here. Click on it, go to the right hand side and tick size to content, and you'll see it fills out the space that's required. Now you can actually customize this. If I untick this, I can customize the size of this thing. So what I'm going to actually do is I'm going to go to anchors and go to this bottom left hand one here, and it's going to spread it across the left hand column here. So what I'm going to do here is change the offset bottom to 0, and you see it's now spread across the whole entire height. And then the width of it I can customize to my liking. So I actually want to give this some padding as well. So for that I have to actually go into my menu stats because it's all inside there. So I'm going to open this up. Right click on it, edit, and on my scroll box here, padding here, I'm going to change my top padding here to 50, my left to 50, right to 50, and I also got to do it a whole lot 50. There you go. Then I want to add some padding between these two here as well, so I'm going to click on my second stat tracker here and give the top padding here of 10, maybe 20. There we go. And you do that for each stat you have inside your stat tracker. We'll hit compile for now, and that'll do. But now I've done that there, it'll go over to our heads-up display, and you see it's translated over here as well. So now we've got this set up, I'm going to click on it, go to the right hand side, and find where it says visibility. I'm going to change that to hidden, so it starts the game as invisible. We're then going to set up some code on a graph here to toggle it on. So go to my graph, and we'll go to delete all this, and we'll create a function in here called toggle stats. And in toggle stats, we're going to drag our menu stats UI variable out, which is a reference to that menu, and we're going to check whether it's visible or not. So just search for visible, and you'll see is visible. And this will give you a boolean which you can put into a branch, like so. Next, we're going to go down to the false branch. So if it is not visible, we're going to turn it on. So drag menu stats back out again, set visible. And then we have to tell, if you want the player to interact with it, we have to change its input mode to allow that. So I'm going to go and get player controller and set input mode to game and UI. And the widget you want to focus on is going to be the menu stats. Or maybe the HUD. It's up to you. You can do whatever you want. So that's up there, and we also want to show the mouse as well. From the controller, set show mouse cursor, and tick the box. So we're first of all reading the menu, whether it's visible. If it's not visible, we're going to make it visible, change the input mode to game and UI so we can actually interact with it, and then change it so we can actually see the cursor. Now we're going to do the inverse of this on the true branch. So we can actually take this and copy this and change it to hidden. Get player controller. I'm going to drag this up here so I can use the same get and do set input mode to game only. And I'm going to also show set show mouse cursor to false. So now we've got this function set up in our HUD. So the last thing we need to do is actually put this to the screen. So let's go on to our game mode. And in our game mode, I'm going to open full blueprint editor. On begin play, I'm going to tell it to create that widget for the HUD. So create widget and select class Headup Display. I'm going to promote that to a variable so I can access it and refer to it all the time. Okay, good. And then from there, we're going to add to viewport, making sure the target is plugged into a Headup Display. Hit compile. Okay, so now that HUD is on there. The next thing we're going to do is going to make it so we can actually toggle it, and we need a controller for that. So I'm going to create our own custom controller for this. So go to add new blueprint class and choose player controller. And we'll call this one my controller. In here, we want to set up so input to toggle that menu. So I've already gone in and added my input. So to show you that, go to edit, project settings, and go to input. I've added a new action mapping called menu, and I'm using the tab. So click on the plus and then type in the name menu, and then you can choose which key you want it to use. I say I'm using tab, you can use whatever you want. In my controller here, I'm going to search for the menu event. So action event menu. And when it's pressed, we want to get hold of our HUD and use that toggle menu, stat menu function. So for that, I need to get hold of my HUD. So I'm going to go into begin play. So at the start of the game, it's going to get the game mode and then cast to my first person game mode. And that first person game mode has this HUD. So from here, I can get the heads up display and I can store that as a reference here to save myself some time. So on the menu action event, I can drag the HUD out, get, and then toggle stats. So the last thing we need to do is tie this controller up to our actual game. So that is handled in the game mode. So go to game mode, and on the right hand side, you'll see player controller class. Choose your my controller class. Hit compile, and let's test this out. Okay, so when I tab, I can see my menu. Hit tab again, and there you go. So what this means, as you can see, it's still hitting 0. What's happening here is because it hasn't updated yet, we have to tell it to update every time we want to re-show it. So we need to do that and tie in our progress bar, which we'll do in the next episode, because this one's been going on for quite some time. So if you want to watch the next episode right now, head over to patreon.com/Ryan Daly, where you can watch that episode plus many others. Thank you to all my patrons for their continued support. None of this would be possible without you guys, so thank you once again. If you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button. And if you like what I do, make sure you hit that like button and comment below about what content you'd like to see in the future. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Bye bye.